in 2020 and are both looking to redeem themselves in 2021. Top Esports going to be on the blue side, and Lyric, all of your nightmares have come true. It's Renekton once again. It made it through the bans.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what JDG's answer will be to this one. You always can go to the stock and standard Gnar pick if you want to pull that out. There's always things like Jayce that can potentially go toe-to-toe, though we don't really know JDG is a team that would opt into that kind of matchup. And just talking about bans real quick, even though we've quickly passed it by, the fact that they're banning both Karma and Lulu signals to me that they're afraid of any kind of potential Kog'Maw bot lane coming in from the side of Top Esports, which isn't something that would surprise me all too much. But we are getting one adaptation that I talked about is like, hey, even if you don't get the Jhin, going towards something that can provide some utility for the side of JDG in the AD carry role.
And I'm not going to lie, there's not many teams that I would say this, but maybe Top Esports need to take the Zoe away in this rotation, because with a lethality Varus, we already saw what Kanavi could do to follow up on Yagao's bubbles. Elise comes through. This is a Karsa classic. We get a Lucian as well. Suddenly everything is flipped on his head.
Yeah, first Elise pick of the split coming out from Karsa. This definitely fits his style, and I'd say the way Top Esports clearly have shown they like to play a lot better, going with another AD soul laner in the Lucian. So for Top Esports, it's win fast or die fast. On the opposite side, we're going to see Zoom pull out the Ornn Munchables. This is something you were talking about earlier. Set and Ornn, at least in 2020, these were the two champions that, I mean, they were just meta, but were especially synonymous with Zoom showing off crazy, amazing performances, which is how JDG won a championship. So far, JDG having some engage, having some long-range poke, having a good enough front line to where if they can weather that early game storm, you do just expect them to outscale with the picks we've seen so far.
Really do. Let's see those center banned away, taken out of the hands of JackeyLove. The Zoe that we talked about will be banned by Top Esports. I'm a little sad, but I'm not at all surprised by that one. And we'll see what the remaining bans are going to go towards. What are you expecting here, Lyric? Because I feel like there's a lot still available.
Yeah, for JDG, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe now you ban the Ezreal, right? Because they took away the Senna, so that shows, hey, we don't want them on a bottom lane that can just kind of sit there and chill while they play on the top side of the match. They want to force them into something a bit more volatile. And now for Top Esports, you would assume once again they probably ban something that goes into the mid lane. You could ban out the Syndra, not extremely meta, but it's something we've seen globally still picked into the Lucian. Other than that, I actually don't think Lucian has too many matchups that he really needs to be too worried about.
Victor taken off of the board as well. I have to say I wasn't really expecting to see any Victor picks today, but maybe it's particularly good against the Lucian. Thresh being hovered here, it's extremely good with Varus. Not surprised at all to see that from Blue.
Yeah, so they're going to take that away, and this also denies more AD carry options from JackeyLove, right? Because Thresh enables Jinx, it enables Aphelios, it enables a bunch of champions along those lines. So they're saying, hey, we're going to whittle down the AD carry pool even more by taking away this Thresh pick. So now I wonder where JackeyLove will look, because realistically, we still have Tristana open. That's something we've seen, but it's like, hey, we're going to go towards Kalista. So Top Esports are all in on early game. What they're taking away from game one is like, hey, we will never get dumpstered in that fashion once again. They really don't have any AP damage either.
You only win lanes against Top Esports once, Lyric. Only ever once, and then they pulled this draft out with the Elise there, with the Kalista. This game is gonna be mental. I'm so excited. I mean, I'm sorry, I interrupted you there because I'm just so excited about this. What if they lose lanes, Larry? What if they lose lanes with this composition? It's gonna be so doomed.
Yeah, I mean, and we see JDG rounding out their composition, right? They're going like full-on poke style once again. So they're showing, hey, we feel good getting on objectives first. We feel choking out in your own jungle, whittling you down before you're able to find those early game engages. Even if it goes late, they have so much zoning coming out from both the Ornn and the Thresh. They have the Lantern to provide safety to Loken as well to keep getting off those piercing arrows. So all eyes are on Karsa this game. All eyes, I want to say, are on soul laners, but realistically, right, we're looking all over the map for Top Esports to see where they can find these advantages.
Everybody get on Twitter right now. Tell the world that Karsa's Elise is back. We get to see a pure early game composition out from Top Esports. They lost their lanes in game number 1 of this series. Zhuo managing to win the 1v1, the bottom lane as well, taking down JackeyLove and Zhuo early on in the game. Phenomenal game 1 from JDG, and now a total stylistic change from Top Esports going into game number 2. I cannot wait to see how this one pans out. I feel like QingTian again is gonna finally have an opportunity here where he has just simply a favorable matchup. There is no way in the world that Ornn should win that 1v1. So it feels like this is the opportunity to let QingTian shine.
Definitely, and I feel like a place I'm looking at even more is also the mid lane, right? Because it's like, okay, you know, you can go up, you have the point-and-click CC coming out from Renekton to set up early, kills early on for the Elise, but later on that's going to get a bit harder to where it's like, hey, there's a squishy Jayce in the mid lane on the opposite side, you have a ton of burst coming out from your Lucian, so as long as you're hitting those cocoons, this should be an extremely tough game for Yagao to play, and it's like, hey, JDG might have a lot of potent damage in that 2v2 as well, but they have nothing setting it up.
Look, I just want to quickly talk about this Elise pick because I'm just very excited about that. We've got drummers in the crowd. Today's great. Today's so much fun. I'm having a whale of a time. I don't know if that was evident already. Let's talk about this Elise though, because, you know, everyone talks about Renekton Nidalee as a combo, right? Back when Nidalee was still a mid laner, long before Nidalee was a jungler, Renekton Elise was the combo. This was the original combo of top laners that get ganked by an AP jungler. And Karsa, he's one of the perpetrators of that combo. He's one of the first people to really make that a famous combo on the stage. His Elise goes back years and years back to when he was on the Flash Wolves. I'm so excited to see what he can do. He is actually starting on the top side though, not pathing towards QingTian.
Yeah, again, it'll be interesting. This is a champion I haven't seen in quite a while. I wonder if he'll look for some kind of maybe 3 camp into level 3 gank, right? Because that's something that's always possible. You can do blue into Gromp into Wolves and look for something on the top side of the map. Probably just going to path towards that bottom side maybe, though, because, again, you still have a very volatile matchup in the bot lane, right? You have a Kalista coming out against the Varus, has the Halo Blades, wants to look for these aggressive traits on our screen like we're seeing now, and it's also where Top Esports look the most comfortable in Spring Split.
It certainly is, and I want to see more 2v2 in that bottom side, but the Halo Blades from Loken, remember, even though this is a Kalista in the bottom side, at level 1, at level 2, the Varus, regardless of which build path you go in the long run, the hail of blades early on, your trades are exceptionally potent. So even against this Kalista, it's still difficult for JackeyLove and Zhuo to be too aggressive until they've got a couple of levels under their belts.
Yeah, did get a bit of a small nerf. Ooh, Knight is going to be fine.
All in onto LvMao here on the bottom side, but the exhaust stops it. Good play from JDG, but Zhuo, it looks like he's positioning to try and find another hook. Karsa sneaking into the jungle here. I think he was spotted by Kanavi there. We could have a fight for this blue buff. Already the bot lane starting to move over. Loken and LvMao getting into Tribrush. Karsa realizes that it's not happening. Is he on that ward? I don't think he is. I don't think he's been spotted. Zhuo moves in, spotted on the scanner here. LvMao is there looking for a hook for himself. Fly onto 2, but he stepped too far forward. He didn't know Karsa was there, and it's first blood onto the Spider Queen herself. JackeyLove arriving, smite onto the Scuttle Crab to keep Karsa alive, and it's a beautiful start for Top Esports. Knight 1v1 with Yagao. Jayce versus Lucian. Knight's losing out for now, but Yagao not willing to step too far forwards.
Yeah, Yagao not able to do that, right? Because he knows Elise is in the bottom side river. He knows Elise can be there if he does look to over-aggress in the mid lane. But going back to that bottom side play, right? You're right, Kanavi knew that Karsa was there. Karsa doing a nice job playing right outside of vision of that ward in the Pixie Brush. It's like, hey, JDG are moving over members first because they want to try and find that pick, but Loken and LvMao were both so low that you can just turn onto LvMao, find that pick, and still be able to get out. It even gave time for JackeyLove to get to river if any more potential action broke out.
All right, time for an invade on the bottom side. Karsa got a double Scuttle Crab, and Kanavi is not happy about it. And if there's one thing about this jungle... I just punched my microphone. Sorry if that made a loud noise. If there's one thing about this jungle matchup that's important to mention, it's that Nidalee, exceptionally good at clearing the jungle. Elise, much more about the ganks, much more about focusing on these lanes. So Kanavi does have that advantage, but he's been spotted. He just jumped in onto the Crux as Karsa arrived. Kanavi going to be forced out flash over the wall. Good hook from Zhuo.
Definitely good from him, and like you said, Elise being very potent in the early game, already coming back with his Sorcerer Shoes as well. Another cool interaction, right, is that, you know, you have the chance of your Spiderlings blocking the spears coming out from Kanavi, so extremely good if potential duels break out, of having ways to play around it, even with your repel. But like you stated, Elise always big in the meta whenever we have gaking junglers. Also one of the best tower divers in the game with how your repel works. So if you need to draw aggro, very easily able to get out of there as well. And it looks like that's what Top Esports are setting up. They're setting up a play down in this bot lane. They have TP on QingTian if they need it, but they might just zone LvMao and Loken off XP, which is still a win, right? Denying resources to the enemy bot lane.
Yeah, very nicely done here by Top Esports, pushing Loken and LvMao away. Now in the mid lane, look at this. Yagao getting chased down by Karsa. Knight isn't actually close enough to follow up, but dodges the spear. Karsa playing that beautifully with the repel.
Karsa does get away, but we need to remember that we already kind of set up the early versus late game dynamic with these teams, right? That's why we see Karsa pretty much just ignoring his camps, falling a bit behind in terms of CS, but that's what we'd expect. He needs to find action, he needs to make it happen, and needs to set up a lead for Top Esports. Kanavi has just been farming, so is accruing a bit of that CS lead. We look towards the top side as well. Zoom is doing just fine, hasn't lost a plate yet, isn't even down in terms of CS. So JDG doing a nice job of weathering the storm.
So far, at least. As you mentioned, though, those CS advantages in the mid and the bottom lane, whereas it's JDG that are ahead in the jungle. But that first kill is going to mitigate that jungle difference right here as Knight moves up to the top side. He spots Kanavi. I don't think this is diveable with Kanavi there, realistically, but maybe Top Esports disagree with me, to be honest, because Karsa's here. Here they go, underneath the tower. QingTian just gets almost one shot, but he heals off of the wave. That was insane. The healing on Call the Meek, and now Culling under the tower. Kanavi can't do anything about this one. The repel that you talked about, it's too good for diving towers. Top Esports, that was immaculate. Now on the bottom side, JDG have to answer. Shock blast in. Zhuo low on HP already. JackeyLove trying to clear the way, trying to thin things out. Zhuo gets the hook. LvMao might go down, but JackeyLove falls earlier than that. And JDG answer in kind.
It's nice to see JDG answering on the opposite side of the map. Like you said, that top play did look a bit dicey because Zoom already having the Warden's Mail coming out, but it didn't matter. They have enough early burst with the items that the players had. Kanavi thinking, hey, we can defend this 2v3. He ends up going down as well. JDG answering back. So in terms of gold, not really a huge loss on either side. You are denying a lot of gold and EXP onto JackeyLove as well, but I guess with a bit of advantage that JackeyLove found earlier, it is still pretty much even down in that bottom lane.
Just about serrated Dirk starting to come through though, Lyric. Yagao and Loken both with a serrated Dirk, as QingTian takes a pretty hefty trade from Zoom there. And that's one of the things about Ornn. If your enemy doesn't have cooldowns, you do, you can hit pretty hard. Kanavi could be in trouble, but Zhuo just goes a little wide on the hook. Dragon is available though, Lyric. And I feel like this is the moment where both junglers have to start to play around this bottom side of the map. Because I feel like if Top Esports just get this uncontested, if they can start to stack Drakes, I mean, that's exactly why you pick Kalista, right?
Yeah, right. And that's really the only thing that would keep you in the game going into late. You could argue that with their composition, they actually would prefer to just snowball off of a gold lead, but with the fact QingTian does have TP advantage right now, I like your point about, hey, just playing around bot right now, forcing around bottom side. You'll always have a numbers advantage if action breaks out or if you are able to find the initial pick to set something up. So Top Esports just going to default back to their lanes for now. We see Karsa wanting to go and pick up his red buff, but I want to see if they do make this play on bottom side. Again, you have QingTian's TP there if anything happens. And you want things to happen, Munchables. You want it.
I really do. I really, really do. But it's outside of just like me wanting to see teams fight because me monkey brain. Like if you're a Top Esports fan at home, you want to see action because this is a composition that is going to do a lot better in the earlier stages of the game than later on. Like Renekton, known for falling off. Elise, known for falling off. Kalista, known for falling off. These champions don't do so hot later on into the game. That said, though, there are a lot of squishy champions on the side of JDG. Obviously, Ornn and Thresh will get tanky later on, but Nidalee, Jayce, Varus, they'll still be pretty much one-shottable later on.
So Top Esports are going to go with the traditional line of thinking that I talked about, that it's like, hey, right, their composition is a lot more important about starting up and snowballing with this gold lead and trying to find kills that way. So they are just going to go for the top side play instead of trying to do anything with their TP advantage. They did know Kanavi was around the bottom side of the play when they all were there, so setting up any kind of dive could have been very shaky. And now it's going to be about where they want to drop this one.
I've had an epiphany, Lyric. You were correct. They're just playing it slightly slower than what we said originally. So they go for the Herald first. Karsa paths down to the bottom side. They already wanted to dive bot. Why not dive bot with Herald? You can take the tower and a bunch of kills on top of it. It's genius. Top Esports can just do even more in the bottom dive now.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, right now we see Zhuo hovering up towards mid, so it is going to reinforce that prio that Knight already has. Karsa popping his head in, but nothing should be able to happen around this lane. Both teams having 3 men here. But still, Top
I'd
Esports...
say that's a good reason for things to happen, Lyric. That's never stopped these two teams before. Flash over from Karsa, but it's respected by Yagao. Good reactions from the mid laner of JDG there. Hook. Oh, Zhuo goes a little deep. Does get away from the death sentence, though. That was a little dicey. I'm not going to lie. That was a little too close for comfort, but bottom scuttle will be taken. Maybe even a dragon here, as you can see, Yagao resetting, but he does have TP available.
And at this point, Zoom still doesn't have TP, so Top Esports finally feel comfortable taking the strike, doing what you said, kind of, going for Herald first, then coming to the spot side. We still haven't seen any bottom lane dives coming out, but JDG maybe just want to try and land some pokes, see if they can hit JackeyLove.
Oh, that's beautiful! JackeyLove just got absolutely wrecked. Yagao moves down. It's a double kill for Loken. That was so beautiful to watch.
The clean, cheeky plays you can do with Vision Munchables. They have the ward down. They have the confidence. If the Chains of Corruption hit, they can chain it into Burst with the Varus that you already mentioned. Has a serrated Durek, has the Caulfield's Warhammer. Kanavi as well having damage on him. They're able to do that, and now it's like, hey, we're getting more gold onto our Varus. Yagao, though, just got solo bolo and Munchables.
Knight just gets a solo kill with the culling, traps him under the tower. Yagao used his flash in the last engage. It's going to be a big ult coming out from Zoom, but with that on cooldown now, the wave's still here. They can drop the Herald, they can force a play onto Zoom, but we'll be able to buy enough time for now. QingTian just going to have to force the next wave instead. Karsa could rinse and repeat, but his camps are coming up. He does need to get back into the jungle.
Yeah, so still going to hold off on dropping that one. You've taken plates in every lane, so, right, you can argue where you would want to put this one. If they do break open that side lane, you're now giving QingTian more room to play with, right? He can push in the wave deeper. You get deeper vision. You can start rotating him around the map more. As we go into the replay of what happened in mid lane, he gets his passive off, throws out the Q, and just is able to hit the calling. Nowhere for Yagao to go in that moment. His flash was already down.
Yeah, his flash was down. He'd used his cooldowns to clear the wave as well. So Knight just sees a perfect opportunity. Doesn't even have to use a summoner. In the meantime, I guess LvMao's been caught. Just gets one shot. Kanavi space checking in. Zhuo will be able to get the root here. In the meantime, it's Yagao in trouble again. This is all about early game this series because Yagao's supposed to wait
tier 1 and tier 2
from Zoom. Then I know it's 13 minutes in and Top Esports do not care. QingTian getting chased out though. Knight is here to support him. Can he get out over the wall? Flash on cooldown will fall. Kanavi with a double kill here. Maybe Knight's gone too far now. As Flash will walk away.
Man, Karsa is getting extremely close to this Herald timing out without, finding an avenue to make a play. That was probably the one they were looking for, right? You're having 5-man collapse on mid, you find a pick, you drop Herald, you open up mid turret right there, but we're going to see the replay in our bottom corner. It's just LvMao trying to path towards mid lane. The members of Top Esports were already here. He didn't have any vision, so it was a decently safe path, right? But you didn't spot them. They could be in that choke.
Ultimately, LvMao trying to play Spider-Man web slinging over to the wolves, but you're against the spider. You don't get to be the spider in this game, LvMao. That's not how this works. In the meantime, Zoom actually in a bit of trouble here. Is QingTian getting good damage down? I think
he
Zoom
does have
walks away
flash
from this one though.
Yep, is able to get away. Didn't even have to blow the flash. And in the meantime, Karsa had to drop the Herald. It was just about the timeout, so he does give it over to Knight. Knight pretty close to being able to break down this turret as well. And now both teams bot lane just ignoring laning phase. They're going to walk right into JDG's jungle with the fact that they have numbers.
Oh, Kanavi's in trouble. Can't get the jump. The root is there. The hook is there. Everything is there. Is JackeyLove looking for the rend? It's not quite enough damage, though. Calling over the wall. Loken, the one in trouble. Now nearly finished off Galfos. As Knight jumps in and gets the double kill. Goes down himself. And actually, it's all been answered. JDG end up on top of the play as Yagao takes someone out for himself.
Once again, we get a really nice mechanical int in the LPL, but at the same time, Munchables, that's twice in like a 4-minute span where Top Esports are between a tier 1 and a tier 2.
I don't know. I love watching top esports, man. This team is so much fun. They do get a bunch of kills, but they actually die more than they kill here. QingTian finishes off a tier 1 in the top side.
I think JDG like watching top esports right now as well.
I mean, you're not wrong. Especially Yagao. Look at his scoreline off the back of that play. 4-1 and 3. Kanavi getting 2 as well. Feels pretty good to be a JDG fan watching this series. And remember, this is the first time JDG have ever even won a game against top esports in the regular split. They're looking for more. So it was, I mean, mechanically it was nice against Kanavi, but the sustain is just nuts.
And the thing is, right, you can empathize with why they make the play. It's like, hey, you have the members here invade and stop the blue buff contest coming out. We see Yagao get a kill on one end, Knight able to get on the opposite, but still Knight goes down. And now you're just left in a really awkward position for the side of top esports. Definitely an overcommit. Again, I think the idea of the play that you're going for makes sense. Try to choke the enemy out with the advantage you have. You have numbers advantage. You can fight for that blue buff, but getting the health bar so low and then baiting themselves into the dive.
But I think, like, so you're going to have to come with me a little bit here, Lyric, and correct me if my logic is completely faulty. Forget my logic. Knight's in trouble here. LvMao moving down. He's fine. Dragon going to be taken here by JDG. I feel like even if you're getting fairly even in gold, accelerating the pace of the game, in theory, is good for top esports, right? Because they have champions that spike really hard. Forget my logic, okay? So stopwatch coming in, it's going to go down. Nice splash from Zhuo, but it's answered beautifully by Loken. Predicts where he's going to be and gets the piercing arrow.
So going back to your logic real quick, right? Like, accelerating the pace of the game and all is fine, except you're accelerating the pace of the game for you and the enemy team at the same time. The enemy team outscales you, and you're getting them to their item breakpoints faster. So JDG definitely feel happy. Anytime top esports aren't getting like massive objective wins or just wiping them off the map completely, it's like, hey, if we're going two for 2, if we're going to where in that previous play, it's like 2 for 4 for JDG in their favor. JDG are going to take that anytime if it's accelerating or not.
JackeyLove not shopping in the recall. Does dodge the spear. So your answer to the logic is yes, but actually no. Okay, I'm with you. We do have a Herald here. And we have some very deep positioning from top esports. There is a ward to swallow all of this out. LvMao has full information and should be fine. Loken moves up to finish the ward off. In fact, LvMao, not a man that likes to share, apparently. Just takes the 30 gold for himself. Could have had 60 gold, doesn't want it. Just wants to make sure he's sending a message to his AD carry. He's the support here. He's the early game carry.
And JDG doing a good job of sending that message, grouping together. For top esports, I think they want to do what we just saw QingTian doing, right? You have 2 side laners, put them in sides, rotate first, collapse first, try to find those picks to accelerate your composition forward. We'd like to see Karsa ideally playing with Knight because that is where the advantage is. And then, again, if you get the right pick onto someone like Yagao, maybe at the 20-minute mark you could try and force either a TP trade or a fight at Baron and try to win the game that way, because gold's still even. JDG actually slightly up. Both of their carries are actually all 3 of their carries, even Kanavi, right, sitting on 3 kills. All 3 of their carries are the ones picking up kills and picking up gold on their side.
And it has to be said that JackeyLove, not really the case, right? JackeyLove is having a really rough series for himself. This is the first game of the LPL for top esports. JackeyLove, game number 1, went 0-4 in lane. This game he's 1-3. Really not a fantastic performance from the superstar AD carry. And I think he's one of the players that has been more readily criticized in recent splits. As Karsa looks to make the play on Zoom, but the minion wave arrives, blocks the cocoon. It's a story as old as time, right? That one where the minion wave arrives at the worst possible moment for Karsa. As Knight just forces Zoom away, Herald will come down and sit in a mid lane here from JDG as they group up to push and try and get some towers themselves. This will be 2 towers on the bottom side in favor of top esports.
2 towers should go over to both teams, right? Because we see Yagao pushing on the top lane as well. Can they turn it into a 3rd tower, though? You think so? And they get it.
It's going to be 3 towers, yeah. And Zoom will be able to finish the Herald. They can't get an in here, but that's a huge swing. Now they're pushing the top side, though, from JDG. Oh, no,
so,
it's just reset.
The thing is, right, it doesn't change the situation of gold for both sides. JDG are still the team ahead. The nice thing it does for the side of top esports, right, is it gives you more room to push that wave even further, get deeper vision, and play out through that long side lane. QingTian against Zoom, I don't think is in a position where he should realistically be able to take turrets, but actually Munchable's that turret is gone. So that last part I just said makes no sense. Point is, though, top esports have a longer lane. They can abuse that. They can get deeper vision down. They can rotate past it for the picks.
Look, I just respect that you're honest, Lyric. I respect that you're just like, wait a second, I'm an idiot. Never mind, moving on. Baron is on the map, Lyric. And we know both these teams more than willing to make shenanigans happen. Drake up in a minute's time, so that would leave a small window, but I don't know. With a Kalista, there's always an argument to be made for trying to sneak a Baron away and just have the better Smite, especially now that Smite got nerfed when it comes to this kind of thing.
You also do have double AD carry, right? So you have Lucian coming out with all his DPS with Gale Force as well, and the Essence Reaver, so top esports definitely do have a lot of damage going out onto neutral objectives. They are going to posture around this Drake, though. I mean, it is an Infernal Soul coming onto the Rift, right? So not anything you want to scoff at. And now I think we need to check summoners. All summoners up on both sides, barring LvMao's flash. So not too big of a deal. All carries should be in decently safe positions. For TES, we want to see them do what they're doing, right? Push out through sides, bring in 2 members from there. JDG group up, find that, engage with Zoom. Keep throwing out poke beforehand, so then, you know, you can go in once health bars are whittled down.
JDG grouping up here. They desperately want to contest this Drake. They don't want to let top esports get away with anything in the early game. 2 Serpent's Fangs picked up by JDG, 1 on Yagao, 1 on Loken, getting that earlier lethality spike as they just burn this dragon down. Can karsa get the steal? He's looking to get into the pit. Spider goes in, gets the steal for himself. It's beautiful. LvMao, the target's QingTian pulled back into the fray. So going to be the next one on the chopping block as the Ren stacks up. They can't quite finish this kill, and maybe JDG can chase this one down. Top esports fleeing for their lives as Zhuo just goes in to try and buy some time for his squad. Flash from JackeyLove. Karsa desperately trying to crawl away for himself, but 8 legs just ain't enough right now. Flashes the shock blast, and JDG just won't relent. Chasing down to the ends of the earth. The empowered Q comes through from Loken, and it's perfectly right on time for a Baron.
And the script completely flips on itself, right? You were talking about, hey, JDG have never taken down top esports in the regular split before. Really dominant game 1 through drafting just extremely strong lanes. They come in this game, top esports say, hey, you will not beat us in laning phase. Top esports weather the storm. They trade off of really over-aggressive dives and plays coming out from TES. And then this Dragon, I was a bit surprised to see them start it because they feel fine even if nothing happens. Karsa might get the steal, but the engage comes out. They are able to bait out, and look how much room Zoom is able to buy on the opposite side. Because when you are top esports comp against this very high range, very heavy poke comp from JDG, if you don't get in there and start taking members out with your engage, they will always win on the kind of walk back, the outside of the fight when you have no cooldowns up, because they can just keep outputting their poke, and that is exactly what they did.
Beautiful shot at the end there from Loken, and I feel like that's the kind of fight, that's the kind of, well, I guess follow-up from a fight where you really see the value of the acceleration gate from Jayce. It's usually just the my shock blast is better button, but in that kind of situation, when you need to chase an enemy team down, getting a speed boost for the entire team, like a mini Shirelia's, is pretty fantastic. Here we go, engage from Zoom, looking for 2 knockups. It's onto JackeyLove. The spear, oh, the death sentence, it's too good from JDG. And the hopes and dreams of top esports may well be shattered here. QingTian into the middle of everyone. There's only going to be 1 as Knight gets a kill, culling out, but he's got nothing. It's a quadra kill for Yagao right now. And you know JDG want to turn it into the Penta. Knight and Yagao, the 2 mid laners from the same city. And Yagao says, hey, buddy, I'm better.
Yeah, you know, Yagao has typically come on the short end of the stick, but this time showing up big. And for JDG, they're just going to keep pushing through the base. You still have about 10 seconds till Karsa's up 20 on QingTian, so potentially not wanting to go for the end is it does look like they're going to back off. But once they get back on the map, they can just keep mowing down these side lane turrets as well. At this point, in any straight-up 5v5, top esports should not be able to fight them. It should be about kind of creative or wonky bush plays coming out from a cocoon into night damage, playing off if a member's overextended on sides. We are going to get a replay of this fight. JDG feeling extremely confident right now. Call of the Forge God comes out. JackeyLove doesn't have flash, so once LvMao is able to chain with the death sentence, it's very easily cleaned up by Yagao. Knight isn't finding any avenue into the fight with all of the front line pretty much being right in front of him, and the other members are just in too deep at that point.
QingTian actually missed his second E there onto Loken. I think he could have finished that kill off himself. But Knight gets the kill in the end. Knight 5-1-1. He presses tab, he looks at the scoreboard, and he immediately bursts into tears because I don't know if this is a carryable game, my friend. He'll get an opportunity onto a tier 2 in the top side for a second here, but just look at the gold difference. 3,500 in favor of JDG. Maybe Drake's is the one shining light for top esports. If they could somehow get this next one, they'd be on Soul Point, and then if they could somehow get another one, like I'm reaching here, Lyric.
I feel like both of these somehows are pretty theoretically impossible. Zhuo is gonna go for the engage though.
Zhuo finds a hook. That was beautiful onto the AD carry here, and Loken will go down, but it's at what cost? Because Zoom gets the triple knockup, and JDG just blow everyone apart. Knight survives, he gets out with his life, but that's all he's gonna have as he has to hide on the fountain, and Zoom dropping a cheeky little dance on top of him as JDG change history. They set the record straight and win themselves their first ever win over top esports in the regular split in 2-0 dominant fashion. Jindong Gaming are here to make a mark in 2021.
Yeah, moving up to 2-0. 12-1-7 on Jayce for Yagao. Coming into this series, I don't think anyone could have expected this result. Again, it's not like JDG were some kind of bottom feeder team, but top esports, even last year, very competitive. 5 games against RNG in the playoffs. And in the regular split, top esports were just on an absolute rampage for the most part of the split. They are going to go down here. They are trying to incorporate QingTian into the roster, so we can give them that caveat. But at the same time, I mean, in game 1, it was just laning phases. This game, sure, they drafted this comp that could get ahead, but when they did get ahead, they weren't able to cleanly transition it into anything. We saw them between tier 1 and tier 2 twice, Munchables. They paid for it both times.
Yeah. It was the fact that it didn't work the first time. They were like, no, it was just an execution error. Let's dive another tier 2. It's the only way. And to be fair tonight, he got a couple of kills out of it, but yeah. Rough one here for top esports, but beautiful from JDG. The thing is, it was all about the counterplay from JDG a lot of the time. In game number 1, they were very, very proactive. This game, it was much more about, okay, what are top esports going to do next? Here's how we play around that. Here's how we answer that, and then shut top esports down.
And it was smart, right? When you're the comp that your win condition against the enemy comp can just be, hey, we wait, we don't bleed out, we get defensive vision, we trade on the opposite side of the map. They did that. They answered when top esports were over-aggressing. So when they followed the blue buff play into diving that tier 2, when top esports were utilizing their side lane pressure, we saw them take a turret in both mid and top, realizing, hey, we can contest them on that bottom side push. So I think a lot of map states JDG definitely played well in either avoiding top esports when they knew they couldn't fight them, or matching when they knew top esports were playing like, top esports.
Which is mildly aggressive, I think it's fair to say, as they definitely went for things. What a game, though. What a game to start us off for the day, as they had a fantastic performance from JDG, definitely changing things up, definitely showing us that they can play multiple styles, that they can be the aggressive ones in game number 1, then game number 2, saying, hey, we're going to let you guys be aggressive and punish you every single time. So good depth of strategy that we see coming out from JDG, and I think this was an important win for them as well after their first series, right? Because looking a little bit shaky against TT in their second game there, it left a few question marks around how JDG were going to perform. And then across these 2 games, I think they've blown every single question out of the water.
Yeah, I do think that this result, not to take away from it, is like top esports to me is one of the teams that certain teams will just completely stomp them, as Rogue Warriors did in spring, right? It was Rogue Warriors' only win. And a lot of the time, top esports will be able to find ways to bounce back and get wins against other teams. Top esports were always in a very similar vein as like a 2020 V5, or how often IG would be. It's like, okay, they can stomp you incredibly fast, but they are never going to stop looking for ways to make plays in the game, no matter how much gold they are behind. So usually their losses are also incredibly fast.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I mean, they proved it here. I will say that first game, they held on. They held on really, really well. It was a valiant effort in the first game. But the second one, not so much. And I think they'd realized that it was going a little bit south towards those last couple of fights where they just kind of go in and, or in fact, a couple of them just getting caught out. And again, we get to see Zoom on the Ornn, right? We got to see in the mid and late game here that when Zoom is on that Ornn, he's able to just force these fights anytime anyone's out of position. He's so good on that pick. But let's talk about Yagao, because once again, he's the MVP. 2 games in a row, both games against top esports, both games against Knight, his opponent from the same city. And I think Yagao making himself a case of the better mid laner here in this series.
And it's great to see, right? Like, sure, it might not have been like a solo kill fiesta in the mid lane, but the thing that's great about Yagao, as we're seeing in the series, it's about the opportunities he finds when he moves from lane. When he gets into his side lane, when he works with his team, he's typically able to find those kills. A lot of amazing accelerated shot class coming in this game with the Jayce to typically pick off JackeyLove. JackeyLove was usually the one on the receiving end of that. And it's also nice that JDG did such a good job of setting him up in these team fights, like this one, called the Forge God into death sentence. It's pretty much a point-and-click ability for that accelerated shot class at that point, but Yagao doing phenomenally to push it all the way to the edge to make sure that JDG, I'd say, had a relatively smooth game. Again, top esports found a bunch of kills in the early game, but when you're going 1 for 1 or 2 for 2 every time, JDG takes it every day.
Yeah, look, against that kind of composition, being able to be even in the mid game, I would say is a smooth game. There's an extent to which against that kind of composition, there are going to be casualties. You're never getting a perfect game there unless you're just miles ahead of the competition. So I'd call that a smooth win for JDG and a confident one. And, you know, Yagao almost getting the pentakill. That hook from LvMao was just like inches away from Knight. That would have been the pentakill if he landed it, but unfortunate for him. And I will say, just across the board, really, really impressed by JDG today. And I think when we talk about power rankings, maybe a few of us have underestimated JDG and maybe overrated top esports off the back of this series, because I know I had top esports much higher in the standings than I had JDG. I think I had JDG like 7th or something. If they can perform like this, they could even fight for top 4.
Yeah, JDG and top esports think will both be very weird teams to rank, right? Because you just look at like individual star talent, and you're just like, well, top esports definitely can't not be a top 4 team, to where JDG definitely rely a lot more on the pieces coming together, which they definitely did today.